Welcome to Founders Marketing Compass. My name is Etgar Shpivak. With my experience as a co-founder and as a marketer, I'm interviewing founders and investors to learn how to build healthy, lasting relationships between startup founders and their marketing team. Today, I'm hosting Alex Frenkel, the CEO and co-founder of Kai.ai. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hello, Edgar. Happy to be here. Excited for our conversation.
My pleasure. So we had a great chat before, but I think that our listeners would love to learn a bit about you and about your journey at the Kai.
Yeah, so my journey is not the standard one. I started by majoring in clinical psychology and worked as a therapist in clinics, private and public, schools, diagnostics. And then I switched to high tech by starting my first startup company many years ago using AI for gaming, working with companies like Zynga and Disney. And that helped me learn does company building and user acquisition and company growth works. And I was super fortunate after my first startup. Instead of going back to the clinic, I went to work for other companies and worked at Zlengo, Get, which is an Uber mobility company. Worked for Sears on social e-commerce and two different blockchain companies, Kolu and Kin. So I learned a lot by working for other global organizations. And we started to work on Kai a bit before COVID, leveraging conversational AI, LLMs before anyone knew what LLMs are, with human therapists to provide emotional support at scale, make it accessible to many people who need it and can't receive the support in the traditional modality.
So basically, I can say that Kai is as a therapist ChatGPT with all their credentials and approval.
Kai is much more than that, Edgar. Kai is a platform that clinicians, clinics, therapists can leverage. It acts as a co-pilot, as an extension of the human team, and it can provide conversational support for the patient, but it also provides monitoring, triaging, ongoing updates for the therapists that are in the clinic. So it's a superpower that allows the same amount of clinicians to provide support for many more people than they can currently.
So it make every therapist as a super therapist.
That's a good description. That's a good marketing description. Yeah.
I came from that. I did it, for like 1-2 campaign in my life. That's it. So I
Yeah.
know that doing well and you're like on your first stages of scaling. And I think this is amazing. And you definitely proved that there is a product market fit and a need for what you build into Kai. And when I try as a marketer to understand is how do you define your marketing team KPI? And
Sorry.
moreover, how those KPI evolve through the different stages of the company. You have in the beginning only the idea and we're trying to figure out what we're doing. And now we have something more concrete. And how does those KPI change?
Yeah. So for us, it's been a long and interesting journey. We started as a direct-to-consumer company, and we were super lucky because we're three co-founders, and one of my amazing co-founders is a CTO, but the other one is a growth hacker. So Ziv is really amazing, and he led all our initial user growth, and we reached hundreds of thousands of people by his leadership. And so it was definitely a co-founder-led initial marketing growth. We got some help with the brand, some help with design, obviously, but most of the work was Ziv engaging on social media. People were joining Kai from TikTok and Snapchat. And one of the turning points was a very large Discord community that we created for young people, and they started to share Kai with each other. So the beginning was very rapid and internal with our in-house team. And then we added a wonderful marketer in Boston, in the US, focusing specifically on young people and Gen Zers. And it was a very important phase because it allowed us to validate the product, publish research, receive some PR, and we learned a lot from this phase. One of the key learnings was that our technology works better or is more suitable for a B2B to C type of model. And one of the key turning points was when the war in the Ukraine started. There were employers that asked us to provide support for teams in Ukraine. And it was a very different type of work. It got us some PR and coverage, and it allowed us to operate our own unique clinic. And this is something that prepared us for the situation in Israel in the last couple of years. And so in Israel, like in any other country in the world, there are not enough therapists, long wait lists, a lot of load on the clinics. And we partnered with the joint organization, localized Kai to Hebrew, and started working with universities and employers, providing support for students and employees. Many of them went through different levels of exposure to the war and the situation in Israel. And this was super, super important for improving the platform. And today our marketing is very different. We're focusing on partnering with providers and clinics, large networks of clinics, and we enable them by providing them an operating system, a platform that they can manage themselves. So we really switched from a direct-to-consumer model, hyper growth, the classic hockey stick, mostly growth hacking, to a B2B2C model, providing a SaaS platform. So many changes along the way.
And first of all, I will say that looking on startups like Kai.ai and other startups in the industry, I think this really excites me as an Israeli entrepreneur to see what the Israeli vision can bring to the world and actually make it a better place. And it's very humbling for me to interview and to have you on this podcast.
Thank you.
But I want to go a bit more cynical and focus more on the business side. What you say here is really interesting. You did the B2C, it went great. Then something happened. And then we understand we had to switch the model into the B2B2C. And in many companies, and as I experienced, you have this opportunity, but this opportunity going into like 1-2 enterprise sales can actually, in most of the cases, kill the company because they were very opportunistic. And, they took those like 2 sales, they got, $300,000-$400,000, but the company wasn't really ready for this enterprise sales. I see this happening a lot in lots of verticals, from health into edtech, into the classic B2B and in other industries. What makes you figure out, hey, it's not only the fact that people now in Ukraine need us, but it's actually the market need is way bigger. Our product market fit is there and not in what was actually quite successful.
So it's definitely the numbers, the unit economics. When we were working with young people direct to consumer, we're able to reach very low CACs. If you're probably familiar with regular CACs for app installs would be dozens of dollars for one new user. And a big difference with Kai was that Kai works not only as an iOS and Android app, but it works directly on messaging. So Kai is a contact on Apple Messages, WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, which was very important for us. And the CACs were very, very low. So we were able to grow rapidly with a very minimal budget, a lot of word of mouth, and that part was exciting. The part that didn't work was the LTV. So what we figured out is that people are not ready yet to pay significantly for an AI focused support. And we understood that the current market is not there. It works the other way around. The only thing that organizations and insurers and other companies are willing to pay for is a human team. And that was a big part of our pivot, understanding that we need to enable a real service where it's a combination. It's not an AI coach or an AI companion. It's a human team leveraging an AI copilot to provide emotional support at scale. And this really unlocked the revenues. It allowed us to sign contracts for hundreds of thousands of dollars and really changed the flow. So now, instead of very rapid growth, very low CACs, but lots of challenges in generating revenues, we have a much longer cycle of sales, a much longer process of validation, piloting, legal, but the contracts are paying much better, we're more significant, and we see a way to scale like that. Another important thing was that the organizations that we partner with have people that are in need, that actually asked for help or support and are waiting or not receiving support in another way. Or maybe the modality of coming to physical meetings or doing Zoom therapy sessions is not the best modality for them. So they're able to bring super relevant audience that our platform can help and support. So the data was key. Looking at the unit economics, CAC, LTV made it very, very clear that if we'll continue in this hyper growth, but a very low lifetime value, we're not going to succeed. And we had to pivot.
So first of all, this is fascinating. And I think this is a great lesson for many startups, especially the one I think that fundraises from the value investor, bring the users and, then we'll figure out what to
Yeah,
do with them. So
yeah.
not, it's not working all the time. And the fact that you have hundreds of thousands of active users doesn't mean they're actually generating revenue. And I love this story and trying to understand, you have your you have your marketer at Boston and his team, and try to understand today as the CEO, how do you measure the effectiveness of this marketing unit? How do you say, you're going, into this monthly summary. This was
Yeah,
okay. This
so
wasn't.
it really changed over time. I think a key lesson for us was making sure that we work with a good, strong marketer or a marketing team that is local. So when we were focusing mostly on the US and bringing users from the US, having the marketing team in the market really familiar with the potential clients and users was super important. When we turned on the operation here in Israel, it really changed, and it was much harder for someone from the US to understand how to create the leads and relationships here. And also the methodologies really changed. So we started by, first of all, counting how many new people join Kai every single day, every month, every week. So the growth week over week was a key indicator of a successful marketing campaigns and brand awareness. But now the focus has changed and it's more B2B leads. So marketing is helping us to bring inbound leads, setting up meetings with relevant potential partners and clients. So the KPIs really changed. Today, we're mostly focused on high quality leads that can convert to paid pilots or paying customers.
So talking about, let's go for your perspective as the CEO. You have your marketing department, and then you have the team that actually need to close the sales department. And of course, not with Kai.ai, but with other companies. What I've seen in reality is that those two departments have huge tension between them. It's
Of course.
in many cases, the marketing pointing out to the sales, you don't know how to close the leads, and then the sales pointing out to the marketing, and those leads are not good enough, they're not fit to our ICP, and so on. And you, the CEO, you the one, and that have the accountability with the board and with your investors to report on the sales. And, when the sales come from the marketing bringing the lead, the sales need to close it. You need to report on this. And I'm trying to understand from your perspective, how do you manage this tension, this relationship?
I think that my very straightforward answer is that I'm the first sales person as the CEO. And even at the beginning, all the initial leads were leads that were coming from our very, very close network. And only by doing that myself, by taking the meetings, by trying to convert, by signing the first partners, I think we're at a stage where we can think about what are the right materials, what are the right channels, the ICPs, and how does the sale process happen. But the first sales where the core team, our amazing head of psychology, joins those meetings to provide more trust in the scientific elements of our platform. So I don't see a real shortcut where at the beginning, yes, we're receiving help from the marketing with creating the material, with maybe bringing the leads, but the core team will take the sales process directly, especially the CEO. And only then you can try to bring another salesperson that is not the CEO. So for us, we're still heavily based on me doing the sales, taking most of the meetings and working very, very closely with marketing and providing immediate feedback. Hey, this messaging didn't work. They didn't understand what is our offering. We need to adjust it. And so it's working very, very closely with the marketing team and being personally involved as the CEO.
And you said about hiring a local marketer, and I know that there is a lot of discussion. Does the marketing need to be local? And or other persons said that the creative actually need to be local. That the team that make the messaging is definitely understanding the language and the local atmosphere in order to craft the right messaging. And the next question that I would love to understand from your perspective is, what are the top three qualities when you're hiring your marketing team?
I think that hiring, especially the first people, is key to succeeding. I feel that for us, trying to hire entrepreneurs, so people like yourself went through the journey, worked on building their own company, learned a lot by doing almost everything as part of their entrepreneurship journey, is a very strong potential quality to be a good fit at this early stage. What we discovered not only with Kai, but also in other companies, that sometimes you will bring a very experienced corporate marketing person, and the startup mode wouldn't work for them. They will know how to activate the playbooks that they're familiar with, but the startup is messy, right? Like you try this direction, it doesn't work. You need to pivot, you need to change other things. So an entrepreneurial background, entrepreneurial mindset is a quality that matters a lot to me. The other thing, obviously, is a deep connection with the mission. I think that Kai is very unique because we're actually leveraging technology to help people to provide emotional support at a very large scale. Having people that are very connected and very excited, passionate about our mission, the impact that we can create in the world, is super, super important. It's not just the position, here are the requests or the needs, here are the like CV lines, and there is a good fit. You have to have this extra, no, your mission is something that I connect to, and here is why, right? It's not only saying that, but it has to make sense with the actual candidate. And then I really feel that speed and the ability to learn and iterate very, very quickly are super important for us. So what I learned over the years is that you take a bunch of very smart people, you put them in a room, they work for weeks, they generate something, share that something to the world, you discover that it doesn't work, and you wasted a lot of time. I think that for me, it's very important to work with people that are very smart, but also can work in a very agile way where like create something initial. It's not perfect. It's a MVP, even if it's marketing like materials. Let's test those, see how it works. What are the conversions? What are the feedbacks, and the willingness to throw it away, do that again in a different way, or just iterate and improve it a bit based on feedback. So I would say those would be three very important qualities: the entrepreneurial mindset, the passion around the mission, the specific impact we want to create in the world. So that's like values alignment, and this agility or capability to work in a build, measure, learn startup mode that needs a lot of flexibility and smart and fast people.
I have a question. Now, I'm talking, both of us are Israeli entrepreneurs, and especially from hiring people from the US. Now, if I take a general assumption, then I would say that hiring US marketing and sales people normally will come, those US sales and marketer will come way more ready than the average Israeli one, and they know how to show this affection to the mission, regardless of the mission itself. And
Mm-hmm.
and this is a tool that you need to acquire. How do you, as the Israel CEO, able to really understand if those people coming to the interview, they want the job? Especially good salespeople will, in many cases, will say anything. How do you manage to distinguish between someone who is just like super ready and those people that really build the mission? Because it's really, really hard. And I know that one of the problems of Israeli founders, it's happened to me, but I heard this has happened to many others, is that we're not that good at reading the US culture. How do you manage to overcome this?
Yeah, two thoughts come to mind. So I had a meeting earlier this week with the head of product at another startup company, an Israeli company, and he gave me this tip, which I really believe in very, very deeply. He told me, listen, Alex, like if your market is in the US, one of the first things you need to do and really focus on is building a super strong advisory board. It can be investors, it can be potential connectors, and making sure that you build this advisory board creates a situation where you can get help. So we're super fortunate. We have strong executive executives from Duolingo and J&J and Discord and other companies, and I would use their help many times, both in sourcing or connecting potential candidates, marketing candidates, but also for interviewing, also for meeting and providing more input. So that was super, super helpful. And I would really advise, especially for Israeli entrepreneurs, to make sure that you work not only in hiring and building the strongest team you can, but you also identify and bring very strong advisory board in areas that are relevant for your business line, right? From companies that are relevant for what you're working on and trying to build. So that would be one thing. So it's not only my opinion, but I received a better initial candidate and a lot of feedback on the process that is US specific, because you're right. For us, it's harder to understand who is a very strong candidate and who is very strong at presenting themselves, right? The other thing that works for me over the years, and this is true for any position, is building a relationship with the candidate. So it's never, I have this structured hiring process. They pass different tasks or different like stages, and then we decide if to hire or not to hire. It's really building a relationship. It's like flying, meeting, doing coffee together, going to lunch, doing some walking meetings to build a rapport, build like a connection that is not only based on the CV or on the presentation that is very, very structured, especially at the first stages. Like the first hires are so important that if you miss with a hire, the damage can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even worse, many
It can
months
kill your
until you
company.
can fix. Yes, yes,
It can kill your
100%.
company.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it. I will say that I really like what you're saying. I can say this is something we did at Fixel, at my previous
Mm-hmm,
startup, and
mm-hmm.
having like great advisory board, active advisory board, not the one that are like for the presentation for the investors presentation, but the one that you can, pick up the phone when you need to. And hey, I have, a two last candidate. Can you interview them, please? And who do you think is a better fit for our need?
Yeah.
And we can say the feedback was definitely valuable and help us make some very, very good hiring. And we talk about hiring the marketing team. And let's dive into the harder question is, how do you see the compensation model for marketing team? Like, should our early stage startup offer performance-based marketing tied into their bonuses? What are the metrics that you encounter in your marketing team, bonuses or compensation structure? Is eventually you're doing the sales or other sales guy, but they might give you the good lead, they might did a good job, and maybe Alex didn't close the lead, or vice versa. They gave you not that amazing, but Alex was so amazing sales guy that he managed to turn it around and actually to make them rather. So
Yeah, so my experience with marketing or hiring the marketing team is almost only with a standard compensation package that is a salary and obviously an options package. We'll try to make sure that we're on industry standard for compensation. Allow an option where the salary would be lower and the option package would be much higher. So that would be the preference. I see a difference between sales positions that are heavily performance based. It's percentages from deals or actual deals being closed with very generous bonuses. But for marketing, the marketing team, my I would say sole experience is a standard salary with some balance between how many options and the actual salary, especially in early stages, right? Where you cannot pay like huge companies. So the option package is the upside and the mission, of course.
what is the one mistakes you see other founders, not yourself,
Yeah.
commonly make when working with their marketing team?
So I saw situations where the CEO will decide that we want to level up like marketing and we try to bring a superstar that would be very, very expensive, but has an amazing track record already. And I saw more than once that it was too early for that senior marketing executive because everything else wasn't in place already. A very experienced senior, very strong marketing lead will need a team to work with. It's been a long time since they created stuff with their own hands, and they expect budgets, they expect a headcount to actually provide the impact that they can for sure provide, and they provided in other large companies. And so I see this transition, the timing, when do you go after a very skilled and experienced marketing lead as a potential mistake that I saw more than once.
So I think we heard some amazing lessons about your relationship as a co-founder with your marketing team. And going for the last three questions for you as a founder is what's a common misconception about running a startup you would like to debunk?
I find myself like speaking with many entrepreneurs, especially first time and young entrepreneurs, and a common, I think, misconception is that they are searching for this like amazing, unique idea. And they're building this prototype, trying to validate. And I find myself many times telling them, listen, like that's not the right order of things. Like start with the people first. Like who are you going to go on this journey with? Choose your co-founders. It's something that I saw with very successful entrepreneurs. After succeeding with one company, they first of all invest a lot of time in co-founder dating, in meeting different potential co-founders, and only then working together on the actual problem and at some point on the actual solution. So I see that as a key advice I give again and again for entrepreneurs, like focus on the people. The other thing is that working with amazing people is very hard. And this is something I saw again and again, where to be able to work with someone that you really want to work with, you have to build a long-term relationship and trust. I think it took me more than a year and a half to hire our chief psychology officer because timing wasn't right for her, but we stayed in touch. We talked. I updated her about our progress until timing was right. And I see many CEOs and founders not willing to dedicate so much energy and work, but the successful ones that I learned from can work more than a year or two to find the right timing and bring an A player. And it makes all the difference. And so that's a cliche, but you can hire 5 B or C players and they wouldn't be as effective as one A player. And this is something that I see again and again. So invest a lot of energy in not only finding the right partners, but also bringing amazing talent, be willing to date and follow up and update for a while until the opportunity to bring someone strong is there. And maybe the last thing is that, and it's an obvious one, right? Like don't fall in love with your first idea and be willing to throw it away. Start again. I think that the amount of times that we pivoted at Kai is very significant, strategically at least 3 times. But I think that our story is the more common story. So this flexibility and willingness to not fall in love in the initial idea or direction and like look at the numbers, look at the unit economics, look at other indications and be willing to listen to what works is super, super important. And that would be my third advice.
And what would it be if you could give yourself one advice at the beginning of your journey?
I think that for us at Kai, when we started, it was before ChatGPT, before the LLMs. And I think that the technology was very, very hard to work with. And maybe it's just like having patience, right? Like be willing to stay on the journey, not give up or retire or like do something else. Just persevere is definitely an advice. I don't know how effective it is, but it's something that I did receive as a first-time entrepreneur where like it's a very hard journey. Many things will go wrong. Like that's normal. Like if things don't go wrong, you should be very worried. And persevering has its own strength. I see many different companies that started around our time and they didn't survive. They didn't adjust. They didn't make it through the economic like changes and technological changes. This willingness to stay in the game and be flexible, persevere would definitely be an advice.
And for the last question, in this very enjoyable interview is which question did I need to ask, but I didn't?
It's funny, like I was thinking about how many times we changed our homepage for Kai. And it's not only the brand changes, it's really the direction. And I think that this is very important with the relationship between a founder and a marketing team. This willingness to change the homepage frequently and learn from every change, be willing to admit mistakes and even go back sometimes to something that worked in the past, but you didn't like go all in on is definitely important. So how many times we change our homepage for Kai, it would be probably more than 10, which seems to be reasonable, not easy, but reasonable.
Alex, I had a great time meeting you. I'm sure our listeners would love this episode and would really enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a real pleasure. Lots of fun. Thank you. Go.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.